Behind me is a mysterious collection of statues known as the ruins. For many locals of Indianapolis, they stand as a haunting facade and a fascinating look into the history of the city that never sleeps. But if they originated in New York, what are they doing here? This entire 80-acre nature preserve was once the private estate of John and Evelyn Holliday. Donated to the state in 1916, it was repurposed for recreation and the study of nature. However, it wasn't until the 1950s that these statues, now known as the ruins, would be moved from their original home. You see, New York wasn't always the big city that it is today. Back in the 1890s, only a handful of skyscrapers even existed, and the St. Paul building was one of the tallest, at 26 stories or 315 feet. You can see the remnants of that building all around me, and to the ground-planted pedestrians of the time, it was like looking at something out of a science fiction novel. To complement this, famous sculptor Karl Bitters was hired to put forth a new series of works, the very same ones you see behind me, that would inspire a new generation with a future-forward and progressive message. Carved from Indiana limestone and originally named the Races of Man, these three massive, as Bitters would call them, Atlantes, after the Greek mythic character Atlas, would together in equality hold up the weight of the world. Having a piece of artwork like this in one of its biggest cities on one of its tallest structures was a huge leap forward. And that's why when the Western Electric Company bought and then demolished the St. Paul building in the mid-1950s, they made the conscious decision to save the Races of Man. Valued at the time at $100,000, which today is over $1 million, it was decided that the statues would only be given to an association with the intent to look after and display the works in some public format. Many associations made proposals such as MIT, Columbia University, and even the United Nations. However, in 1959, the winning proposal was made by local landscape artist and Indiana resident Elmer Taflinger. His original design would see the entire front facade of the St. Paul building moved here to Holliday Park, where he would personally oversee its implementation into a publicly accessible outdoor exhibit. However, the story does not end there. Nearly 20 years would pass with the Races of Man being in various states of completion. Reportedly, Taflinger was changing his designs on a near-weekly basis. And with eventual changes in local government, the money allocated to him to finish these new designs was varied. He would continually distract himself from his main goal by spending his budgets on numerous other statues, ones that had no real significance, or at the very least, had no relation to Karl Bitters' work. Flash forward to 1973. The unimpressed then-mayor Richard Lugar insisted that the Parks Department take over the project and finish the job, which they promptly did. That said, Taflinger was still heavily involved and was eventually made the park's sole caretaker. But in 1981, Elmer Taflinger would pass away. The Parks Department had since moved on to other projects, and Richard Lugar was long out of office. With neither government nor public interest in Holliday Park, the Races of Man would become overgrown and begin to crumble within the decade, earning its nickname, the Ruins. It wouldn't be until 2016 that a local fundraising effort led predominantly by an association known as the Friends of Holliday Park would raise $2.3 million in order to restore and reopen the Races of Man once again as a public park. And thus, after a long and storied history, through various iterations of decay and rebirth, it would seem that Karl Bitters' arguably greatest work will continue to stand against the weight of the world. I'm Garrett Van Team, and thank you for watching.